Grand rising, you beautiful creatures. How are you? Welcome to Wake Up with Sonia Poulton. And guess I am Sonia Poulton. If you don't already know, I'm a journalist, I'm a broadcaster, I'm a troublemaker, I'm someone who's just getting over a cold, but that's all good. Thank you for being here. Lovely to see you in the comments. I missed you all on Friday. Thank you all for your kind messages. I've had the sneezes, I've had the coughs, I've had the shivers, I've had the aches all last week. Still, I'm back here today and hopefully with a boosted immunity. How are you all? I'm feeling much better, thank you. Well, let's see how long we can last. Still got a bit of a cough, but I'm here and it's great to be back with you. Welcome to the show that knows the only good pedo is one that is 6 feet under. Boom! Welcome to the show that gives no you-know-whats when it comes to prisoners taking out other pedo prisoners. Yes, it's going to be one of those shows. Yes, indeed it is. Oh, yes, indeed it is. How are you all? I hope you are all fantastically well. Lovely to see you in the comments, alive and kicking. And what is on today's show? We will be joined by writer Sarah Newlyn, who will be talking to us about surrogacy. She's done a fantastic article about it. And as many of my viewers know, I am no fan of surrogacy. It is, in my words, in my opinion, a baby making machine. It is a business. It is the selling of babies, often to complete strangers. And I loathe it. And so does Sarah. And she's going to be joining us and talking about it in some detail. We'll also be joined by Darren, the Forensic Bodyguard, on his work protecting celebs, his thoughts on celebrity assassinations, and what he thinks happened to Charlie Kirk. And we will also see a welcome return of the Renaissance Yorkshireman, Alistair Lord, who joined us before he entered his 10-day silent meditation retreat in Thailand. Well, he's out the other side and keeping his promise to return and tell us how it was 10 days without electronic devices, without conversation, really pretty much without anything except your own thoughts. I'm looking forward to hear more on that. And in terms of the news, of course, it's the Gaza Summit. Trump has just arrived in Tel Aviv today. We'll also be looking very briefly, because it's a live case, at radio DJ Tim Westwood, who has been charged. Tommy Robinson is also in court today. I'll be explaining the EU border system and looking at pedo Ian Watkins, who was killed at the weekend, plus Stephen Lawrence gang member parole hearing. And this week's Shut the F Up goes to Robert Jenrick, and I will be explaining why. Plus we have your voice, and at the end, everything feels unreal, because it does a little bit, doesn't it? And just to say, I am not covering, as I explained last week, the Julia Vonderlt case, the trial, until it's finished. And there's some excellent reasons for that, which I will explain in a full-length show. Essentially, I was threatened and warned. Having said that, there is our good friend Zoe from Only Cans, also known as Synchronized Soul. She's been covering it. Zoe, if you're there, put the link in the comments, and if not, send me a link and I will put it in the description. So we do news different around here, and you know why? Because someone had to, and that someone is me. How are you? Happy Monday, all, says Jenny from the blog. Defund the BBC, says Dean. Sounds like isolation ward in prison. No thanks. Charged at last, says Mel. Hear you, sister, hear you. Morning, Penny. Good morning from the rolling hills of Morayshire. Says that's life, but not as we know it. And hello to you all. So let's look, first of all, at, this. And Gaza ceasefire looks great, but is it all that it appears to be? That's really, I think, the question right now. Trump is in Israel today to play the role of Lord Bountiful, but has he secured freedom for all prisoners and the people of Palestine, or set up his next business deal? Our friend, journalist Warren Thornton, has been very clear. This is about lining the pockets of many, including Trump's son-in-law, Zionist Jared Kushner. On top of being applauded in the Israeli parliament today, Trump has the Gaza Summit in Egypt's Sharm el-Sheikh. He's going to be co-chairing the summit with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and the idea is that there'll be a participation of at least 20 leaders from around the world. That will include the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Italy's Giorgia Meloni, Spain's Pedro Sanchez, and France's Emmanuel Macron. It's uncertain at this point whether Benjamin Netanyahu will be at the Gaza Summit. Hamas said it will not take part. And the official word is the Gaza Summit will aim, and I'm going to quote them, to end the war in the Gaza Strip, enhance efforts to achieve peace and stability in the Middle East, and usher in a new era of regional security and stability. Well, that sounds nice, doesn't it? So what has happened since the most recent return to war? Well, that was since October the 7th, 2023. The official figures tell us that more than 67,000 Palestinians, most of them civilians, have been killed, while we are told that 1,200 Israelis were killed and 251 were taken hostage. I don't know if any of you saw it, but there were profound images of Palestinians returning home as they journeyed along the north of Gaza. On Saturday, they were trekking by car, by foot, by cart, really returning to what was left of their homes. And many of them have no homes to return to. And the war has reduced their neighborhoods to dust after 2 years of insane bombardment. And many are asking, will Israel pay Palestinians to rebuild? And others remain unconvinced by the deal. One of them is seasoned commentator Loki. And he's not convinced. He said that Israel has broken every single ceasefire agreement it has ever had with any state, ever. But now, he said, Israel has brought itself directly into conflict with millions around the world because people have finally noticed. And in that, he referred to like former MAGA people like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson and Charlie Kirk, who was asking questions, and he's looked at protests around the world. The pushback has been tremendous. I mean, what he is essentially saying is that Israel can no longer hide what it's doing, and it is caught on all around the world. And even though you have people like the Ellisons who have taken over TikTok and who are censoring TikTok to hell and back, as indeed is X. X is full of Zionist like puke. The timelines, I mean, you can tell who's running the show here, okay? But Loki said the point is that people have just noticed, and Israel cannot return to its usual propaganda. The world has woken up. But he says the deal is not all it's cracked up to be. Now, he is somebody who has followed this for years, if not a decade plus, a very, very long time indeed. And what he's talking about is the peace deal is not the full withdrawal, but a vague promise by Trump acting as guarantor that Israel will withdraw up to particular points within Gaza. It seems doubtful that the thousands of Palestinian prisoners will be released. We shall see. Question mark, question mark, question mark. But what he's really saying, and I agree with him, is that Israel is now obligated to allow around 600 food trucks daily. And what it actually shows, it clearly shows that Israel has been using food as a weapon of war, which is a key component of genocide. So we shall see how that goes today. I think it's going to be interesting. And what's also interesting is a solicitor, Paul Heron, has revealed that Brits who go off to fight for the IDF can now be prosecuted under UK law for the first time for serving for the Israeli Defense Force in Gaza and the West Bank. Interesting stuff. Says if British nationals currently serving in the IDF continue to do so, they are opening themselves up to potential criminal charges under the Foreign Enlistment Act of 1870. British citizens who accept or agree to accept any commission or engagement in the military or naval service of any foreign state at war with any foreign state at peace with Britain can be punishable by fines and or imprisonment. And about bloody time too, frankly. And just while we're continuing on this theme, I want to talk about this man briefly, Richard Tice. He is, of course, a Reform MP. I did a recent piece about the infiltration of the UK, and in particular at the hands of Friends of Israel, who has bought up many of our politicians with donations. Well, I said Reform MP Richard Tice was dipping his toes into Israel Zionism. Well, he's done more than that now. Today, when Parliament returns after conference season recess, Tice has made it known that he intends to talk about the issues that matter to him, which is Israel. So he had his first trip to Israel at the end of September. And honestly, these politicians are not representing us. So if you think they are, you are a mug. You are a mug, mugger than a mug. Reform is pro-Israel, pro-Zionism. This is not a Britain First party. Richard Tice was talking to the Jewish Chronicle. He said he had expressed strong disappointment at the wrong stance that UK government has taken with regard to the recognition of a Palestinian state. And he added that the leaders that he met in Israel recognized and appreciated Reform UK's pro-Israel position and its criticism of the UN. Tice accused the UK of complete abandonment and betrayal of Israel, citing a motion passed at the Labour conference last week, accusing Israel of genocide. And Tice said, as I said to the Israeli foreign minister and to the president, we Reform stand rock solid with Israel. He's also busy denying there has been starvation and genocide going on there. He wrote a piece for the Conservative Woman, another captured rag. And he said that he was at the Kerem Shalom crossing. He said he witnessed a busy crossing and trucks arriving by the dozen. And he wrote, my experience inside the Gaza humanitarian aid crossing, I find the fact that famine is a blatant lie. Hello, people. Are we back? Are we back? Rumble was down as well. It was absolutely, I think we are back, which is great. Thank you. Thank you. We're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. I had to reload the page. That was really weird. That was so very, very weird. Right. What I was actually saying was it was a busy week in the courts this week. We are all here. We will wait. Don't worry. Thank you, Halo. I appreciate that. Yes, it's a busy week in the courts this week. Today, you have British activist Tommy Robinson. He goes on trial on Terrorism Act charge. He's charged with failing to provide the PIN to his mobile phone under Schedule 7 of the Terrorism Act. He allegedly refused to give police access to his mobile phone when he was stopped under the Terrorism Act at the Channel Tunnel. It's a live case, so I shall be careful. Plus, this week, interesting times indeed. Let me just see if it will even allow me to bring in any images. That was weird as anything, kids. This week, people have been asking me, what's been going on with this trio? Well, there is a plea hearing for this group who have been charged over the Starmer-linked arson attacks. 3 men charged in connection with arson attacks on 2 properties and a car linked to Sir Keir Starmer will face trial in April of next year, but they have a plea hearing this week. That is Roman Lavrinovich, Stanislav Karpiuk, and Petro Pochinok. And they return to court, as I say, on Friday to enter pleas to the charges that they face. Right, we're here. Oh, I'm supposed to forget about that, am I? Oh dear. Right. Okay. Well, I didn't forget about it. I have a memory like an elephant and I have more receipts than Tesco. Simple as, right? They can try and chop me down, but I'm still here. Talking about which, let's bring in our first guest. Let's bring in our first guest because he's still here as well. And I will continue with the news after our first guest and after our second guest and after our third guest, if necessary. Right, let's do this, people. Let's do this. Alistair Lord. Oh, he's not even there. There he is. Excuse me. Alistair, how are you?
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can hear you. I can see you.
Good, thank you. Yourself, Sonia?
Yes, well, I'm doing absolutely fine, except I just got cut off and couldn't get back on, and the stream seemed to be failing. But we are here. And Alistair, you are the Renaissance Yorkshireman. And you joined us before you went in on this silent meditation retreat in Thailand. You haven't been back there for 9 years, I think. And you promised, and you've kept your promise, that you would come back to us after you had done the silent retreat and you would tell us how it all went. So is it 9 years since you've been there?
No. So the last time I was there was 3 years ago. But before that, it had been 10 years since I had last been there.
Got you. So you first attended the silent retreat in November 1997. That's correct, isn't it? You've been on 8 retreats there since then. This has been your most recent one. Was it 10 days?
Yeah, it was 10 days, yeah. Although you enter the silence on the last day of the month and then you don't break it until like 6 o'clock in the morning on the 11th. So 10 and a half days, let's say.
Oh, gosh. Right. Talk to us. How was it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a strange experience, especially in this day and age, to not have any access to any mobile devices or any internet for 10 days. And the women live in one dormitory, the men live in another, and you don't speak to anyone else in the dormitory because it's a silent retreat. So in my case, there was a dormitory which could fit about 35 or 40 men, but on the first day there was 30, and by day 4, I think about 10 had dropped out, so there was 20 of us sharing a dormitory.
Wow.
And I mean, you have your individual room, but like, you know, it's communal.
Yeah, but the dropout rate is high, isn't it? You said it would be.
It is quite high, yeah. I mean, I think that's higher than it has been in the past, but somewhere between maybe 20 and 30% of people drop out in the first 3 or 4 days. Because, I mean, some people just can't hack it. And I mean, unsurprisingly, because you're thrown into it, and then when you're not having any conversation, your mind goes into overdrive and starts like, you know, playing games with itself and throwing out things from the past and speculations about the future and all sorts of things. So some people, I think, can really find it quite a sort of disconcerting experience.
Yeah, we did briefly talk about this before, didn't we? About sort of facing that shadow self of of who you are, and we talked about Carl Jung, and we talked about the fact that you admitted yourself that you'd had anger, perhaps I don't know if you'd said anger management issues, but temper issues certainly, which kind of
anger management issues. Yeah, since I was a child, really. I mean, it's one of those things. My father had an anger management issue, and as is common, particularly when we're children, we're programmed for better or for worse by our parents, by schooling. For some people, it's the church as well. And we pick these things up. And then once they're entrenched, they're buried very, very deep. And you have to go deep to kind of pull them out. And I mean, with silent meditation, mindfulness with breathing in this case, you can calm the mind to a certain degree. And, you have one object of meditation. In this case, it's the breath. And you follow the breath. And that's it, pretty much. Now, people think of, a lot of Westerners think of meditation as something that's really esoteric and woo-woo. And there are these kind of esoteric branches of meditation. Those do exist. But actually, most forms of meditation are pretty straightforward, and they're a skill. Anyone can learn them in the same way that if you took lessons in Spanish and then went to live in Spain, or if you took driving lessons, you could learn how to drive. If you have instruction in how to do meditation and then you practice the skill, you will develop the skill, so on that level, it's not something esoteric and woo-woo. It's a skill that can be developed. And one of the side effects, if you practice it consistently, is that sometimes the mind will calm down and you get these moments of clarity, and you get feelings of happiness and contentment and things like that.
How do you feel right now?
Well, it's funny because I'm in Chiang Mai at the moment, which is a city the size of Leeds, and it's kind of like, initially when I was out, I was kind of, you're in this kind of like a daze, in this kind of honeymoon period where you feel super calm. Now, since then, it's kind of like I'm back in normal reality, and,
right.
I'm dealing with people. So my kind of base level of super chilledness, which was the case like maybe 3 or 4 days ago, is not what it was. But I still feel pretty calm and relaxed, and it's been a kind of healing process, let's say.
10 days is a long time to be facing yourself. I mean, like, consistently. It is. I think that would be quite heavy going, actually. And I think that obviously that what it would do is it would bring up lots of issues, perhaps that you still may have to deal with. Do you feel, because you're like a pro at this now, but do you feel that you learned anything new from this most recent one?
As far as kind of like, skill sets go, I wouldn't say I've learned a particular new skill. I mean, it's kind of like I'm at this point where I'm trying to kind of deepen practice, because, I mean, the thing for me personally is consistency, because in the last 5 years, it's like I'll have a month where I'm meditating every day, and then something will knock me off my stride and I won't do anything for 2 weeks. Then I'll be day on, day off. So for me, it's kind of come back to the same thing in this case, which is consistency. And also, I've had points 3 years ago when I was there, I had quite a sort of kind of healing experience. And you know, I felt for like a month afterwards that I was like, you know, walking on clouds, the way that my kind of anger had come down. And the thing is, old patterns are so well entrenched that they reassert themselves.
Right.
And
right.
So you always come back to the fact that you've got to keep doing the work. Do you know what I mean? It's not like
100%. It is not something you can do once and then that's it. That's not how it works, right? Absolutely not. I just have to check that my camera is all fine and everything, because I had to essentially reboot the whole thing, which was a bit odd. Seems to be fine. Let me ask you this. Sally Ann said, does it help you to realize who you are? Do you feel more realized?
In a sense. Now, I mean, this is an area where Buddhism actually fits really well with Jungian psychology, because in Jungian psychology, they'll say you're not one individual ego, you're lots of different parts. Buddhism will say the same thing, that there's no eternal ego, that's the same person. And it's like, sometimes I'm super chilled Al, and sometimes I'm angry Al, and sometimes I'm, you know, hateful Al, and sometimes I'm loving Al. So it's kind of like, I've realized that I'm lots of different people, and it's kind of like, which ones you give the attention to are the ones that are likely to grow.
Right.
But, you know, these little gremlins of like, you know, so-and-so did this to me when I was a kid, and this person did this to me 2 weeks ago. You know, these little gremlins, they're very strong, and they have these little patterns and dances they'll play with you. And what you just do is you kind of let them do their dance, and you kind of see what they're doing. And then after a certain amount of time, they get bored and they go away. So you've got to be aware that these things will always come back, but they are temporary. And if you stay with the breath, you know, for a while, you're with the breath, and then you go off on some little tangent, and then it's like, oh, I was meant to be following the breathing. So then you come back to the breath. And with this technique, it's very simple. You will lose your concentration, because that's what the monkey mind does, jumps from the past to the future. But just come back to the breath and keep it simple.
So where to from here?
Geographically or spiritually?
What have you decided is your next stage?
So with me personally, I do a lot of creative visualizations in my own practice. And I found this is something that I started doing 3 years ago when I went last time, is I do a regular metta meditation. Now, this is METTA. And this is a word from the Pali language, the language of the Buddha, and it's normally translated as loving kindness. And with loving kindness, you have to start with yourself. So I often do this meditation where I'll focus physically in the area where my heart is, and I'll generate this feeling of love towards myself. Now, because I've got a certain amount of experience with this, I can do it relatively easily now. It wasn't like that when I first started, but as with skills, when you practice, it develops. Now, I need to do this on a regular basis, preferably a daily basis, because it's, I've reimagined my relationship with my anger. Because the thing about anger is you do need it in certain circumstances. You know, Martin Luther King, for example,
Very useful.
Did not start the civil rights movement because he wasn't angry, you know.
Right.
Channeled. And the thing is, if your anger is running your life, it's just going to be a nightmare for you, and it's going to be a nightmare for everyone around you. But if you can reframe your relationship with your own anger, and this is an issue for me, but I mean, I suspect it's an issue for, I don't know, 20, 30, 40.
Loads of people. I had to look.
Loads of people.
Yeah, I come from a very fiery family, and I used to be exactly the same. I would, you know, I would contemplate physically like taking people down, you know, I mean, very seriously. And I've really kind of addressed that. So I think that is something that impacts a lot of people. But I think anger, like you say, is very useful. And I think that the aim should surely be that we learn to control our anger rather than it control us, right?
Absolutely. Now, with loving kindness, start with yourself. When you've got a certain level of skill, you can start including other people. So, you know, I often do it now with you know, I feel love towards my daughter, my mother, some of my friends. And, you know, even advanced practitioners, they will generate love, like, you know, Tony Blair and Peter Mandelson. So high-level practitioners who've been doing this for years will be doing this to people who you might consider to be your enemies.
Right. But I do. I demonstrate and think of love towards my enemies. I absolutely do. That doesn't mean I don't want justice. That's a whole different thing, right? But yeah, I absolutely hear what you're saying. We have to go, unfortunately, which is such a pity, but have a very safe journey back. When are you coming back to the UK?
I'm flying back on the 20th next month.
You have a very safe journey, okay? And no doubt we will speak to you soon. But if there was a word of wisdom, a piece of advice, or anything else that you feel that you've learned from this last week that you could impart, that you could share with our viewers, what would it be?
Meditation is a skill. Anyone can learn it. Take a technique and then practice. If you have issues, speak to someone who's got a certain amount more experience, and then readjust your practice and carry on. 20 minutes a day is a good place to start. And I would say mindfulness with breathing, anapanasati, is absolutely one of the simplest. And if you've learned to drive, or if you've learned to swim, or if you've learned to read and write, then you can learn to do meditation.
It's a skill like any other. Lovely to see you again, Alistair.
Absolutely.
You take good care of yourself. Everybody, this is the Renaissance Yorkshireman. Lovely to see you, Alistair Lord. Take good care of yourself. And glad we could get him on and we didn't have any more problems. Lovely. How are you all, you beautiful people in the comments? My next guest is arriving. I'm going to go to her ASAP. I'm just going to see some of your comments. But I saw that somebody, Valerie, is on a train. Morning from India. I'm listening on a train to go Ghana. Well, somebody's having a splendidly international jet-setting time, Valerie. Wonderful. Lovely to hear it. How are you all? And Enter Shikari is very concerned that meditation essentially, well, let me see what you said. It opens you up to dark entities. And Synchronized Soul has come back and said, I think, no. And why is it being pushed on us? Said Enter Shikari. Why? But it's not like a drug, Shikari. Meditation is just one of those things that you can opt in or opt out of. It's not, I mean, it's not an addiction. We're not pushing an addiction around here, okay? So it started in the late 80s. Faced myself for 50 years and a bit of nosebag keeps me happy, says Marcuson. I see. I hope you are all right. You certainly sound wonderful and fiery enough, which is always great to hear you. I'm going to... wait, Sarah, that's not true. They haven't been quashed. Sarah says, please tell us why the 3 Ukrainian models have been quashed. They have not been quashed. They're at a hearing this week, a plea hearing on Friday. And the plea hearing is whether they plead guilty or not guilty. And that will then determine the next course of direction in terms of the court. So no, it hasn't been quashed. And Shug said, everyone is unique. So what works for some will be ineffectual for others. Absolutely. Avril doesn't have 10 days to spare. Why, where are you going, Avril? What are you up to? Right. Let me welcome in my next guest. I want to talk about a subject really that honestly makes my blood boil. I'm not good on this subject. So let's hopefully I can keep my own anger management under control here. Let's welcome in lovely Sarah Newlyn, writer Sarah Newlyn. How are you, Sarah?
I'm all right, Sonia. How are you?
I'm very well. No, I'm not very well. That's a lie. Let's stop lying. I'm recovering from a cold.
Me too.
And so there you go.
And
Right. And the thing is that now I'm an adult and mature enough not to do a woe me, poor me. I actually went through the process and recognized it at each point. And I went, oh, okay, that's what I'm going through now. And this is how I deal with it. And it's wonderful. And I largely had my feet up in front of a roaring open fire all week, watching back to back of slow horses. I think that's a bad way to spend one sick week. It felt great. It felt great. Kevin said, if you want an addiction, try Irish coffee. I hear you. I hear you. Right. You are, of course, an independent writer. You are from the Critically Thinking blog. And you have written an incredible piece, part one, actually, because you're going to do a second part. So you're not hanging around. Good girl, good girl. And that's when you know that you're really going into it, right? When you start to get parts to it, because it's like, okay, because the first part often is about an overview of something, isn't it? It's like, you know, giving us a direction of travel. So talk to us. Why does the issue of surrogacy bother you so much?
Well, I think the thing is, Sonia, it's one of those ones that's sort of, mainstream media have pushed it as well. Always stories on Daily Mail and all these rags about one celebrity or another having a baby via surrogacy and welcoming this child, and it actually boils my blood, because that child has immediately, at the first stage of its life, been ripped from its mother and handed to total strangers. And that's a I think I say it in the article, it's a primal wound. You're inflicting a primal wound straight away on that child. And just the sort of nicey flowery articles around it just started to really wind me up, and I thought I need to put something down about this, and yeah, it's always so the celebrity angle is really quite sickening. And then the more you look into it, you start to see about the sort of gay couples and single men. Now that started to really, that absolutely got me going, because I mean, who can't see the sinister nature of that, right? You've got to be a moron not to see how sinister that is.
Oh, absolutely. And we are post Jimmy Savile world, right? Where it's insane the way that they've allowed it to continue like that. And Glenys has also got blood boiling about this, as indeed will many of our viewers. So excuse me. Let's take it from the top, because I think one of the things that kind of initiated it for you was the recent decriminalization, right? Talk to us about that.
I mean, that it sort of feeds into it, doesn't it? The decriminalization of abortion to birth. Again, who could see this as anything other than it's infanticide, right? But they're calling it women's rights. It's apparently a women's rights issue. What about the children's rights? But I just sort of linked that. I was thinking, what happens in a surrogacy arrangement, especially here in the UK, where there's no laws around surrogacy. It's not a legally binding agreement that you make when you commission a surrogate. So you can't take somebody to court. You can't, those things are not enforceable by the courts. So what happens if a couple change their mind who have commissioned a surrogate? And it started me thinking now, if a woman is doing this for financial reasons, and that's what my second part will be about, is these, those women are so vulnerable. And
these are not rich women doing it, right?
Exactly. And what if she's faced with the possibility of a child suddenly that she's got to now pay for and support, and, that she was going to give away? She could easily choose that option now, which maybe not easily, that might be the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying. She could easily go that route, but without facing any kind of repercussions for that. So yeah, I just kind of linked the whole thing, but I just think that, Sonia, I'm sorry.
I know. I understand. So that's why I'm going to guide you through it. Don't worry. So because I think that the really important point, which you've already alluded to, but it is an important point, and that is first and foremost, right? We're living in a country where judges are literally freeing paedophilic men, as you point out in the. So the message already is that children are not our priority. Exactly. And in that scenario, as you rightly say, that is when surrogacy is flourishing.
Exactly.
Okay, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry and very clear damage. I mean, during the C-19 period, babies who had been birthed for surrogacy were left in their cots for months at a time in various orphanages around the world. I've seen the video evidence of it. Horrible stuff. And as a mother, the idea of somebody ripping a baby out of my arms and is too unbearable to think about.
Exactly
right?
that.
So,
and I saw a video over the weekend, I don't know if you saw it, of a Chinese man, again, a single man who's purchased a baby, and he's in this hotel room to pick this child up, and the baby's just lying there in a blanket on the bed, and he has no idea how to handle this child. He keeps looking at the people who have, you know, I'm guessing they're some sort of agency that he's purchased through, and this poor child is just left on this bed. God knows where the mother is at this point, you know, long gone. And it just, you know, I wrote in the article about that amazing process that happens after birth, right, between mother and baby. And you're just taking that away from that child. And that process is essential for healthy attachment and for the child to feel all the natural things that it's supposed to develop after its birth, which, you know, we know birth is a traumatic experience for both mother and baby. It's a beautiful experience, but it's traumatic. And that process that happens afterwards is there to soothe and to, you know, to help the bond and to soothe the baby and make the baby relaxed. And you're just taking that from that child at that very moment. And I just, it breaks my heart. It absolutely breaks my heart. And again, it's one of those issues that has been led by money, and it's not the women who are acting as surrogates making. When I talk about the dollar value of that industry, it's not the women who are making that kind of money. This is big corporates. This is you know, the industry that gets the pregnancies going, the fertility clinics. It's the agencies that facilitate the purchasing. They're making billions of dollars on this every year, and that's why it's being pushed so hard. I have no doubt. You know,
you talk about how anti-human the process is, how the baby is, as you say, not handed to the birthing mother, but instead to what is termed the commissioning parent. The commissioning parent.
Please, I know. I mean,
the terminology itself is anti-human, isn't it?
Exactly, and I think it's deliberately done that way, because I feel like it's one of those issues that is being, it's going a bit under the radar in a way, but pushing yet again transhumanism. You know, it's sort of removing the human element to this and making it a transactional thing. You know, and nobody has the right to have a child. I seriously have an issue with that. You know, it's a blessing to have a child, and nobody has a right just by the fact that they have the money to do it, to be able to purchase a child. It's so inhumane and really does take the human element out of the whole process, I feel.
Talk to me about the trans influencer couple that you refer to in your article.
My God, I mean, sorry, the names just escaped me. I'm so my
Joseph, Ryan, Wayne. Oh, it's all right. Don't worry. I completely get it. Listen, Sarah, you're human. Your responses are very human. You're also a mother, so it will tap into so much for you, which is why I loathe it. And let me just be clear here. I oppose surrogacy for everybody, from
100%.
single men, gay men, lesbian women, celebrities, 50-year-old women who no longer should be having children, and I oppose it all across the board, So I just want to be
absolutely, Sonia. I mean, I got accused over the weekend on Twitter of being homophobic, transphobic, all those things. It's nothing to do with that. As I write in the article very clearly, I oppose this from across the board, as you say. I don't think surrogacy should be allowed for anybody, because it's the child. This is about the children. This is about the babies. And the couple you referred to, there's some I think they're hairdressers or something, but they've made a bit of a brand for themselves. They're both men who identify as women, and they have purchased twins from a woman, and that they just share this stuff constantly, their whole journey, as they call it, which is a word that it gets you so overused
so
now.
they've monetized the babies that they
They've
purchased.
completely monetized
And
this.
can I be really clear here also? And that is, if a man claims that he's a woman, he should be nowhere near a baby, certainly not a surrogate baby. Sod that. And I don't care whose feelings are offended by that either.
It's so true, Sonia. It really is. And you know, they're literally just, every single day they're posting videos of these children, and it is so clear as the children have got older from the footage. Sorry, my dog has just decided to get down here.
Oh, good. Hello, doggo.
It's so clear that these children have issues. You know, there's no connection. You can't see any kind of real connection with their caregivers, so-called parents. Because they're not, it's not there. They've been ripped away from their mother, and
they're not connected. They're not connected.
Of course they're not.
And what you're talking about sounds like these twins have been commodified on top of everything else.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a whole nother article I want to write. Actually, it's about the use of children on social, as you know, monetizing them for social media.
There's that awful family, right? What they called the
sack on jollies.
Yeah,
I've read about the sack on jollies.
Jonathan. So what they've done is they've trans their little boy right into a girl, sending her out on dates at the age of 10, and all manner of repugnant things. I don't understand why people like that are allowed to like have their wares on social media and monetize these kids. I don't understand.
It's shocking, and I think that all feeds into this surrogacy issue, because I link in the article to another video of a heterosexual couple who have purchased a child, and it's this, you know, she's all glam and ready to receive this baby, and it's this whole, everybody wants to show their lives as being something special on social media, don't they? You know, and you can't. I just think that the using of children in that, and the babies in surrogacy, sharing all this on social media, it's just appalling. It's absolutely appalling, and it should be absolutely banned across the board. I don't care if it's gay couples, single people, men or women, or family. You know, it just should be completely banned. And I think there's every reason to call for a total ban.
I think, as you say in the piece, just because you can do something, it doesn't mean that you should, right? Which is something I absolutely agree with. But the other thing that you highlight, which is really troubling, because we're allowing this baby business with such a lack of research about the long-term impact on these babies. Talk to us.
Absolutely. So a quick sort of Google search will throw up, in fact, this partly what raised my suspicions was that it throws up that there's no issue. These flowery articles where there's no issues. Babies that born through surrogacy have no problems later in life, blah blah blah. And then I was in touch with a woman called Olivia, and she's actually a real advocate now for banning surrogacy. And she was born through surrogacy and has really spoken out beautifully about the the issues she faced growing up. And she didn't know she was born through surrogacy for many years, but she always knew that there was something. She just didn't feel connected to her parents. She had many issues, and it led her to alcoholism. She tried to take her own life a few times. Anyway, she then learned that she had been born through surrogacy, and she's become a real advocate for the banning of the process. She did try to contact her birth mother. There was a very brief and not a very happy meeting. And she is now connected with many other hundreds of other people, adults who were born through surrogacy. And they all feel the exact same feelings. They had these feelings of disconnection, trouble with connecting in relationships as adults. They couldn't form healthy relationships, and then having their own children prompted really immense feelings, in really quite tough feelings about themselves and about their babies. So it's a real issue, and it's a real again, it's one of those issues, as you mentioned at the beginning, Sonia. Children are not being prioritized here. The priority is the adults buying babies, and that's always going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for me forever, and I will keep talking about it forever because it's just appalling.
Let me read you some of the comments, and right, let's see what we've got here. Oh, love Sarah. If people understood the impact of pre and perinatal psychology trauma, no one could countenance surrogacy and more, says Cosmic Firefly. And Gringa says, thanks, Sarah, just an industry like organ harvesting. And Glennis is a mother of 6 children. She said, I couldn't imagine selling a child. It really breaks my heart for these babies. And Shikari says, it's been made publicly acceptable by celebs. And I think that is a really important, all of those are important points. But I think that the celebrity endorsement is such an important point. So you have obviously people like Rebel Wilson, the Kardashians, certainly Khloe Kardashian has admitted to it. There is question marks over whether Meghan Markle had her children by surrogacy or not. Then you have
didn't Naomi Campbell just recently have one as well?
Yes,
she's
yes.
Isn't she in her 50s now, Naomi Campbell?
Exactly. And it's the thing about being ageist. We've been given what we've been given, right? And that is, I stopped being able to naturally have babies in my 50s. Anything beyond that is a natural assistance and not meant to be. And some people are not meant to be parents either. If you're in a same-sex couple, chances are you haven't got the tools there naturally to be able to create a baby. So take the sodding hint. Take the hint.
That. And look at Elton John and his partner. They've got 2 boys, and Elton John's in his 70. What is he? How old is Elton John now? 80? I don't know.
I don't think he's long for this world. And I think then a whole load of stuff is going to come out, because don't forget, Elton John has spent a ton load of money keeping headlines out of the news about him and his partner and their private affairs. And
who knows what goes on in that household?
Who knows what goes on there? And the thing is, this is not homophobic, but I, like you, want to know why all of these gay men, whether it's Dave Rubin, whether it's Glenn Greenwald, whether it's Tom Daley, I want to know why all these gay men suddenly think that they should be fathers to babies that are not theirs, and single people even worse. Single person.
I mean, the single, particularly the single men thing. How anyone can not see that as sinister, I just, it's beyond me. And I list, I think, 4 or 5 examples in the article of cases where men have they've been convicted of child sex abuse.
Yes.
And sorry, we're on YouTube. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine.
But they've also been allowed, because because of the very loose rules around surrogacy, there is nothing stopping a convicted sex offender from buying a baby. And this is just absolutely appalling. I cannot imagine how anyone can not see that's incredibly sinister and incredibly wrong. It's appalling. And why would a single man, I talk in the article about what happens after you give birth as a mother, the oxytocin that floods your body and all those
chemical reaction.
The chemical reaction, right? And that's part of that allows you as a mum to handle everything that comes with having a newborn, and because it's hard, isn't it, Sonia? I mean, it's not easy. And that helps you through that process. So you're handing these children to somebody who's not been primed to handle the
absolutely, and that is also part of the 9-month period, isn't it? It's the adjustment that it takes.
Absolutely,
it's huge, absolutely huge. I think that this is an absolute scandal. It shocks me that we are allowed to glorify it and glamorize it the way that we have. Do you remember very famous gay couple, Tony Druitt and Barlow? Do you remember them? The two British gay men, and they had 3 surrogate children, and that is a perfect example of how things go, because their daughter, one of them ended up having an affair with their daughter's boyfriend. Like weird stuff, right? This is weird stuff, right? This is not
natural elements, not there. That connection with those children is not there, clearly. I mean, that's very obvious in a case like that, isn't it? It's, you know, but yeah, and I think the next piece I'm going to write, Sonia, the part 2 that will go up on UK Column in a couple of weeks, is about the women who are being exploited in this process. So this one was mostly about the babies themselves, which is the primary concern. But then there is this element of all these women being exploited. They are just usually very poor women who need the cash, frankly, and they're forced to take it. They're not forced, but they are, especially in poor countries. There's lots of women in India, there's lots of South American women who are you know, this is offered to them, and they have no other way of earning this money, so they'll take the money and carry these children, and it's hugely exploitative. And here, even here, I think Scotland particularly, there's advertisements in colleges for young women to harvest their eggs.
No.
Yeah, they are selling this to women as if harvesting your eggs is nothing, you know. Oh, and it says, I think the advert in Scotland even says something along the lines of, could you bring joy to a couple? You know, I mean, how exploitative is that? It's just
shocking stuff.
Horrendous.
The thing
And
that
harvesting eggs is not as simple and straightforward as they make out. You know, it's quite a serious process. You have to take a whole cocktail of drugs to do it. You have to have a medical procedure to actually take the eggs. It's not a completely simple, carefree. And then your own biological children will be out there, and you won't know where or to who. It's absolutely shocking. The whole thing to me is appalling. And
it really is. It has to stop. And I don't care who it is, right, who's doing it. As I said, is irrelevant to me. The whole thing is absolutely appalling. The other thing that you highlight, which we cannot ignore, which is really concerning, is the change to abortion law and regulation.
Yeah. I mean, that in itself, when that happened, I don't think I was alone in just being absolutely horrified by that. It's whether you're pro-abortion or not, the idea of aborting a day before a child is born, you know, due to be born.
Shocking.
That is just infanticide. I don't see how it could be seen as anything else, Sonia. If you birthed that baby and then smothered it, that would be infanticide, right? And,
absolutely. And I just wanted to ram that home again, because the thing is that these babies are so unprotected. It is absolutely a scandal. And some people say to me, well, because I'm so critical about it, some people say to me, you know, well, what about them adopting? Well, the point is most of these people would not be considered suitable for adoption, yet they can go and purchase a baby, right? That is the reality, right?
Yeah. And this is the thing, isn't it? That when it's rarer these days than it used to be, but when say a woman dies in childbirth and that poor baby is then left motherless, it's seen as an absolute tragedy, isn't it? It's like, oh my gosh, this poor baby. And you know, if it's lucky, it might get adopted straight away, but as you say, there's a hugely rigorous process to adopt a child, you know. And as you say, most of these people would not be deemed eligible at all for adopting, especially a newborn. You know, they would certainly be looking for a woman to adopt a newborn. And yeah, but if you've got the money, you can just go and buy yourself one, and it just as if you're buying something, a product from a supermarket. It's absolutely appalling.
It really is. It really is.
It needs a ban worldwide. It really does.
100%. And just briefly before you go, just going back to legislation again, you draw a parallel with that heinous assisted dying bill as well. Explain that.
Yeah, I mean, when that was first floated, you know, people saw it as a really kind of, oh, well, you know, we should be allowed to give people dignity in dying. And when it was first drafted, I think there were lots of safeguards. I personally never agreed with it, but there were some safeguards written into it. But as we predicted, they were very quickly thrown out. And I use the slippery slope phrase a lot, and people laugh at me for it, but it's so true. It just, you know it's going to happen, and before you knew it, that assisted dying bill was stripped of all those safeguarding. And we were at a point where, and I feel that the same thing with I talk in the article about embryonic research. Currently there's a 14-day limit to to the time that they're allowed to experiment, which sounds so awful anyway, on embryos. Then after 14 days, they have to be destroyed. And now there's pushback on that. We could extend the time for embryonic research, and I just feel that is pushing towards creating embryos. Sorry, I'm rambling again now because
I feel you. It's a fantastic article. I'm going to put a link in the description at the end of the show so people can read it. It is extensive. You've gone into it in some depth, which is absolutely great. You're not rambling, you're passionate. And that's the important thing. One thing that you absolutely want people to know about surrogacy before you leave us this morning.
Oh, just think about the babies. That's what I want people to know, is that babies need mums. That's frankly, babies need mums. And yeah, it's just my daughter's just gone off to university, so I'm a real empty nester at the moment. But babies need mums. She still needs me. She still needs me, even though she's 200 miles away. She still needs me. And the idea of birthing babies, specifically knowing that you're taking them straight away and they're not going to have a mother, is just appalling. Well, they do have mothers, but you're taking them from them.
Yeah, exactly.
They need them.
Hope, love and peace says thank you, Sarah. Absolutely, indeed. And Sarah, do take good care of yourself. Look forward to that part 2. And I agree with everything you've said. Yes, Jan, I do agree with her as well. Thank you, Sarah, says Colin. Lovely to have you with us. You too, sweetheart. Sarah Newlyn, everybody. And being very passionate about surrogacy. And indeed, we all should be. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. And the thing is I do believe that we're going to have one of those moments, right, where we're going to look back and go, well, that was child abuse. Plainly, that was child abuse. And I just want to say that my next guest has arrived, but I just want to briefly go through this story before I bring him in, because I want to have a really in-depth conversation with him. So I hope that's all right, my next guest. I want to briefly talk about child abuse and about somebody who didn't fare too well after being a child abuser. Now, because the StreamYard or YouTube or whatever it was that kicked me out earlier, it's got rid of all my pictures, but it's bringing it back now. So, as I said at the start, you know what they say, the only good pedo is one that's 6 foot under. So depraved and extensive pedo Ian Watkins, former singer of Lost Prophets, was killed in a prison attack on Saturday by a murderer. Not just a murderer of him, but somebody who was serving life for murder. Reports also claim that another man was involved, and this was to do with money. Apparently, Watkins paid for prisoner security, and the allegation is that one of the men he paid to protect him turned on him. Well, duh. 2 men have been arrested, a 25-year-old and a 43-year-old on suspicion of murder. Watkins was serving a 29-year sentence at HMP Wakefield, which is an infamous prison that houses many lifers, including Jeremy Bamber. Watkins' offences were extensive, including the attempted rape of a baby. He was arrested at his Pontypridd home in September 2012, when a large number of computers, mobile phones, and storage devices were seized. In 2013, Watkins was given 14 and 15-year consecutive prison terms for engaging in sexual activity with a child and that attempted rape that I referred to. He was also convicted of 11 other offences at Cardiff Crown Court, with those sentences running alongside his 29-year term. 2 of his co-defendants, known as Mother A and Mother B, the parents of the children that he assaulted, were also imprisoned for 14 and 17 years, respectively. Just kind of, I mean, what Sarah was saying, I mean, a mother that offers their child up to a paedophile. I have no words. During the trial, it was heard how a woman, one of these mothers, had proposed to him the offer of a summer of child porn, to which he replied, "Hell yes, baby." Representing woman B, the barrister told the court that Watkins told her client, "You and your daughter now belong to me." Armed police escort van was carrying an inmate yesterday who had allegedly killed Ian Watkins. It's also understood that the that Watkins was so tech savvy, his collection of child abuse footage and photos amounted to 27 terabytes of data. Can anybody imagine how much that is? 1 terabyte is enough for me to store a year's worth of wake-ups and more besides. Okay, that tells you how much child abuse images this predator was storing. A statement from West Yorkshire Police said detectives have launched a murder investigation after the death of a man in HMP Wakefield. Officers were called by staff at the prison at 9:39 a.m. Saturday morning to reports of a serious assault on a prisoner. A man aged 48 was found with serious injuries. Despite medical attention, he was pronounced dead at the scene. And no one in my household is weeping about that. And this is not for the first time he's been attacked. Even lags hate pedos. He was seriously stabbed in an incident at the same prison in 2023, where he suffered non-life-threatening injuries after he was reportedly taken hostage by 3 other inmates before being freed by prison officers 6 hours later. The judge, when sentencing, said that the thing with Ian Watkins is he plumbed new depths of depravity. And so there it is. We'll obviously hear much more about that moving forward. And that is a good point, Halo. How you live is usually how you die. Bridget said, how did other band members not know about Ian Watkins? Well, they said they had absolutely no knowledge whatsoever. And that was that. And Mel said, my shock some years ago is how many women are involved in paedophilia. I know, because obviously it's portrayed largely as a male crime, but shockingly, it is often women who are the accomplices, who make the who create this kind of bridge between the male paedophile and the child, because children still believe that women are going to be a lot safer in a dangerous situation. So there you go. There you go. No tears being shed on this side of the camera. Yeah, women enablers galore. Absolutely, Martina. No doubt about it. And we need to face that fact. Right. I want to bring in my next guest. And you're not going to be able to see him. And reasons why are going to soon become obvious when we explain why. So let's bring him in. Here he is. Darren, the Forensic Bodyguard. Good morning, Darren. How are you?
Good morning and grand rising, Sonia. How are you? Hope you can hear me okay.
It's not great. Now it's sounding, so maybe move slightly away. You're on the phone. Move slightly away from it. Can you hear me now? I mean, you could hear me anyway.
Oh, better?
100%. 100%. Brilliant. Grand rising to you as well, Darren. Okay. Why are we not showing your image? Tell us.
Well, it's just the industry that I'm in. I'm in the protective security industry and deal with a lot of stalking cases as well. Currently, I'm from a celebrity protection background, hence I'm still involved in both sides of the industry.
I'm really glad that you agreed to talk to us, Darren. I think that your knowledge and information, it will really highlight some of the clear issues that are around the Charlie Kirk story, the official narrative. But first of all, I want to give our viewers some idea of your background. So, as we say, that it's important for us to, I know who you are. I've seen your imagery. I know your background, but it was important for me to protect your image because of the work that you do. So you have been protecting celebs for a very long time. What does that entail?
All right. Despite what the misconceptions of the media and public is, we actually are a lot more in depth in our study of, let's say, the client. The principal is who we actually look after. You're the client, you've hired us, but the principal is who we actually do a more in-depth study on, depending on the threat level or the requirements. So we'll go through a process of their personal history, background. But say it's just an artist, then you know generally it's fans. You might have the once in a while obsessed fan, but generally it's going to be fans, supporters, teenagers, etc. So depending on the situation, which a lot of clients, as I said to you already, Sonia, with the celebrity field, your skill set is not really utilized. What we're trained to, that's why looking at certain of the current modern assassination attempts and situations that's happened, our training should really encompass a lot of those risks and threats. And so moving aside from that, we will cover you. Best way I always giving people an example, Sonia, is if you imagine when James Bond, that opening scene in the James Bond film, when he's in a hotel or somewhere in Istanbul or somewhere exotic, and then he's caught and he has to escape at the last minute, and he has various routes that he runs across and exits and goes through the kitchen. He might go along the riverbank, run across the footbridge, down a scaffolding pole through an alleyway. That's part of what we do in order to explain it. We done the reconnaissance for him before the assignment. So in the long short of it, we would have gone to Istanbul and walked the whole site. We would have planned that
huge,
escape.
isn't it? The preparation is absolutely huge. And I'd just like to point out to people that this is particularly brilliant that Darren has been prepared to show up today, because the poor lad had facial surgery last week and still recovering from that. So thank you so much for being here, Darren. I do appreciate that very much. You went from working in banks and offices, and it was your mum who actually gave you a close protection brochure, right?
Yes, I was a little bit not lost, but I just wasn't the same person. I physically changed to the person that I was. I didn't have the interest. My mind was elsewhere. And she came in one day and just dropped a brochure down for me, a rather expensive bodyguard training, to call it a better word. And I sort of read my me, and she said, "Go on, have a look, see what you think." Over time, it took me another year or two. Eventually, I got into it by not exactly the way that I thought, but it was the route I was going through anyway. So very shortly, I was just naturally gifted for it. And what my mum basically explained to me later is, "You were doing that from you as a child." I was, really? She said, "You always had that way of protecting or looking out for someone smaller, or your nan when you was at shopping." And I'm like, okay, I didn't realise. But to me, after getting into industry and seeing it and going, okay, that's where if you can get it in life, where you get your thrill, or what gets you up, what's your motivation, what's your passion. And I realized that's what it was looking after the vulnerable, or accomplishing a difficult task on behalf of others, not so much about yourselves.
You've worked with some big names. Can you tell us some of them?
Gosh, well, a majority of the main A-listers, I would say. Oh gosh, everyone from Nelson Mandela to J-Lo, Muhammad Ali, Beyonce's, British bands, Razors, Robbie. Yeah, quite a extensive list. If you want to go on, but yeah, quite an extensive list.
I think it's really important for people to understand that you've been there, seen it and done it. And so when you see a situation like a Charlie Kirk, you probably might have more questions than just a regular onlooker. So, but you've also been involved in training courses as well, haven't you? Tell us a little bit about your training courses.
Yeah, well, I was sort of been very fortunate and blessed to have been trained and worked under, I'd say, the global industry pioneers, 2-3 of them. So my skill set was, which I learned from them, not down to me. I was just like a bit of putty and took to it like a duck to water. So from their experiences and that, I've gone on to do a bit of training and etc. myself, because I'm found that I'm good at instructing and getting to the meat of what a new recruit or a new trainee needs to know about the basics and getting into it. But I got into stalking training by accident, as in I'd been doing the protective security work for a long while, and accidentally I got into the stalking and domestic violence field, which then was like a whole new can of worms. Like, oh my gosh, this is really where our skill set could be applied. So I started doing that with victims, and obviously the training side of it, I had to learn the subject matter and then start training personnel around me that could actually carry out the operations as well.
It's fascinating stuff. So when you saw the Charlie Kirk killing, so that was September the 10th this year, 2025, at a college campus in Utah in the US. And we've heard many versions of what's taken place. Lots of very weird scenarios have greeted us, including his curious wife, and obviously the memorial, which was really odd. I mean, there's so much odd stuff about it, and we've talked about it in detail. But the one angle that I haven't looked at is through the eyes of somebody who is involved in close protection and how they would see such a thing. So talk to us, Darren. Anything that first comes to mind about Charlie Kirk and your initial thoughts, perhaps?
Where do I start, Sonia? Where do I start? Right, sitting back and watching it, the Americans have their own way of doing things, as apparently supposedly the global leaders in certain aspects, which, looking at the last year's attempted and assassinations, that is obviously not true. A million miles from it. I'm not sure whether it's because the military are so proactive, as in what they're trained to is a high threat level, a much high risk potential weapons environment, and because it may be in the civilian populace, I'm starting to conclude whether they've dropped their guard, so to speak, so far. But it's still strange to me looking at the recent public figure attempted assassinations. They've got quite a lot in America. It's not like over here with like Joe Cox and a few. They've had quite a lot in the last year or so. So you'd think that the antennas would be on full alert. And looking at it, what jumps out to me straight away is just the conversations on what's going on in the protective security thing online. They're discussing it as in we're literally like a 6-man team of bodyguards on Charlie. And straight away, that's one thing. I'm like, oh, really? Because straight away, our operation manual will have Sonia's with the client's children. This is Sonia's assignment with the client and the children. Darren's with the dad. This is what his assignments are. The personal escort service. We have a complete breakdown of tasks depending on what your role is. So with a 6-man team, straight away I'm looking at guys, well, what does it take 6 of you to do with a crowd of 2,000-3,000 in front? Are you going to dive on him? Are you filming a human shield? Is there assignments?
So already,
is there one assigned to cover him? Sorry,
right. No. So what you're saying is already the fact that he had 6 bodyguards was some kind of red flag to you.
Because I'm like, no, you couldn't have had a 20. Because if it was Charlie Kirk and I've got him. I'm not saying 6 man's a red flag. 6 man's so beneath the number required because it's Charlie Kirk. That's the red flag. So in that situation, we might have had 6 there in that immediate thing, but there's another 16 or 14 elsewhere, Sonia, or 12. So we've got the control room.
Right.
We've got
Okay.
the rooftops.
That would be an ideal situation. But the thing is,
the cameras are the control room, which is where you've immediately got one of them 6 has got to be there because he is there with the security team monitoring all aspects of the campus. So
let me just get this straight. So are you saying right from the outset it was a poorly functioning scenario for him? That's what you're saying.
If I'd have got a phone call from TP, whatever they're called, I would know where I've gone in over a 6-man team. Impossible.
Really? How many men or women would you have had with you?
Looking at the size of the campus, and obviously you've got campus security. As going back previous TPUSA events, they've had up to 20 to 40 police assisting them. This one, they maybe had under 10, apparently what I'm hearing. So already it's inadequate. It's way across the board. So I might have had less security with me, my team, if I've got 40 police and a whole campus security to carry out our operations on our behalf. And then we have spread the team to be around and oversee certain parts of the site. So I'm like, who planned that? Right. There's no way anyone planned that with half a brain, because this guy's had threats through like a dozen daily, dozens, hundreds.
Yeah, he even talked about it, didn't he? But obviously the kind of like the overarching counter narrative now appears to be coming from Candace Owens more than anybody else. And she obviously revealed that series of messages where he's talking about how he can no longer really probably be part of the pro-Israel cause because of the pressure that's being put on him by the money men. So what are your feelings about that? What do you think about what Candace is saying and whether there's some legitimacy to it?
Well, listening to her and a few others and what he said, mainly his statements and some of the people who've taken positions in TPUSA since the assassination, he who screams loudest usually has the most to hide.
So are you saying that Candice is screaming loudest and has the most to hide, or are you
No,
saying...
no. Whoever is saying whoever screams the loudest. So there's such a flavour of one side at the moment. Nothing to do with us. Nothing over here. He was our best friend. He was this. He was
Oh, I
everything.
see what you mean. Right. Yeah. And
You see
immediately
what I'm
taking over
saying?
his podcast and new shows and new business deals, and everybody's excited. His wife is so giddy. She is the merriest widow I've ever seen in my entire life, frankly. And I
Yeah,
take
that
your
one
point.
is a bit strange.
Yeah, they're all strange.
That
And
is a bit
obviously,
strange.
well, we're not in a position where we can start accusing people because there's such thing as defamation laws, obviously. But what are your feelings about what we're being told about the direction of travel? Because we're being told that it was Tyler Robinson, a guy who's involved in some kind of trans relationship. And when you saw the text messages, apparently, right, that was from Tyler Robinson to his boyfriend, what did you think?
I thought if I closed my eyes and certain modern words were replaced with Walton or John Boy, I could have been listening to Little House of the Prairie.
Right.
I really could have been, because it sounded like something from the horse and wagon days of young early days romantics in the early 19th century or something. I was like,
That's
who
right. That's
talks like
right.
that?
Right. Exactly.
Who
So
on earth
most people,
talks like that? No.
well, most people don't believe those, and I think I don't believe them. It sounds absolutely insane. We are expected to believe that somebody who has just shot a fairly famous influencer suddenly then rocks up and sends all these weird messages to his boyfriend, and it answers all the questions, obviously, you know, about where he put the gun and everything. So the idea is that he was in front of Charlie and he shot at Charlie. That is not what you're thinking, though, is it?
Well, from the position, so I'm looking at 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock's behind you, 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, yeah, in the direction of where it was. It is slightly off 10 degrees, the apparent position of the assassin. I did do sniper, that type of training. So looking at it, it's a very difficult shot. It's not as easy with the canopy above. It's not an easy shot as it looks. And the whole bit about on the roof, the whole thing, the shadow disappearing when he runs across it, the perpetrator, it's all very, sorry, it's all very suspect, that is. But I just don't think the shot came from there.
Tell us
I
where you
don't.
think the
I
shot
don't.
came from. You sent me a movie of where you believe might have been a similar flow of what happened. Explain it to us.
What it is in modern assassinations, it's nothing to do with the old. It's not really necessarily nothing to do with the old man on a roof with a sniper.
Right.
With the type of technology that we have now, you can do a sniper from a drone, from an
Right.
airborne drone. You can do it from a vehicle. So I sent you the clips. I think I sent you the one from Robert De Niro's film. I think I might have sent you that one with the van, with the built-in sniper machine being
Yes.
aimed remote controlled.
So for those who haven't seen it, explain it to us.
So the scene, what I'm describing is a van. It's gonna imagine a similar thing to that to the Charlie Kirk open air stage, senator person giving a speech, and there's a people carrier family type van parked up with local cars opposite. Inside it is built a remote controlled sniper rifle, mechanical, with a camera on it, and the assassin is actually outside sitting watching the event with a tablet with a joystick with a camera controlling the sniper from the van 100 so yards away. He's not even in it. Eventually in the scene, they realise where the van is, suspicion. The scene ends with the van exploding and him actually missing the target. But the point where I sent it to you was to show you just that mechanical technology where there doesn't actually have to be a sniper there. We could have gone on further and looked at drone stuff and that, because there's been assassinations done using a drone. I think it was a doctor was shot with a drone in a hospital in Nassau recently in the last year or two, and it was a drone that shot him. So with the actual just single shooter on a roof, that's old news. But however, you always need a patsy, and you always need a cover story.
Right.
That is the track record going back, pattern of behavior to every assassination. So I use that word pattern of behavior because you go back and you pick anyone, put them in a barrel, spin them all around, pull out two, and just start going through on the list on our side, and you'll go, oh my word, it's the same. We had a decoy person. We had a really strange person, as in Kennedy Japruder film. Why did the one person who had a video camera in the state was there that day? Let's say it's coincidence, but when you go through and you see a similarities in George Zimmerman creating misdirection, there's always that. There's the Brody man in the JFK. There's always little patterns of to confuse and muddy the waters, and it's never just a straight, simple thing. He was seen on the roof. He was caught on the roof.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, we don't have that.
So you say there's no way this is about some lone nutter. This is a pre-planned and organized assassination. That is your.
Well, look at one of the things I teach on something is fixated behaviour. And
fixated
as I
behaviour,
said,
right?
Fixated behaviour and stalking. And with public figures, and Charlie was a public figure, the main threat to them usually is a fixated loner, but their behaviour.
Whoop, cut off, Darren. Hello. But their behaviour. Hello. You back? Yes.
Hello. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries.
Yes.
But their behaviour, you said.
But their behaviour is actually, it might be a shot running.
Is it gone again? Has it gone again? Do you know what? Tech ain't loving us today. Is it? It's not Mercury retrograde, is it, people? Hello, Darren.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Pull the microphone slightly away from you. It's buzzing.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes, that's much better. So the behaviour.
So the behaviour might be more erratic, where he runs at the stage and shoots. These assassinations are too precise, too well thought out, too well planned. For him to be that mental and plan this meticulously, and I'm going to put the rascal there and I'm going to take it apart and all of these things, so someone of calmness of mind, of precision, not someone who's just erratic and emotionally lost it.
Right. So obviously, without kind of naming names, because we don't want to get into defamation territory, but what is your sense of where this is coming from? Who targeted him?
Well, look.
Has he gone again? Has he gone again, peeps? Poor Darren. Surgery. No. Yeah, go on.
So
Darren.
It's sort of like hello?
Right. Hello? Yeah, go on.
Hello?
Hi,
son. Hello?
Can you not hear me?
Yes, I can.
I can hear you. It's fine. Carry on talking. Go on.
Yeah, it's a bit like a stand-down order, because the security procedures were so low. It was literally lax. So whatever's done, I've got to look at. My first thing is who internally, and apparently he had connections to his own security company. This is what I'm not confirmed it, but I've heard that TP owned the security company that was providing his 24/7 protection. So I've got to look internally first and say, guys, who, when he had recent threats and actually told you, I'm in fear of my life, apparently, that's been told to 3 or 4 people have reported that online, and as well as the social media content about your principal, did not let you upgrade your security. In fact, it was lower than it ever been at any event. So my first thing is I'm looking internally.
Right. Good place to start. Anything else? Because obviously this is an ever-changing, ever-evolving story. People are coming up with new theories every week to do with what happened. Some people believe it didn't happen at all, that it was staged, that we were just kind of witnessing some sort of illusion. That is not your position, is it?
No, because what would be the benefit, and who would gain anything from a fake assassination? I mean, what's he going to do? Walk around with long hair for the rest of his life? Completely changes. What is the benefit in that? There's no gain in that. It's clearly obvious that there's been a gain in him maybe changing his direction and now being put off the tracks. But he's no longer there verbally able to say where his direction was going in, because they're all saying it on both sides that, oh no, he was sort of changing his certain viewpoints on certain things. So when you consider who his donors were and who his groundswell of supporters were, there was a conflict there.
Yeah,
There's a conflict there between the two.
Darren, given the fact that you're just recovering from surgery and we've had all manner of tech issues, you've done brilliantly this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before you leave us?
No, I'd just say everybody should make themselves aware of their own personal protection requirements and situational awareness nowadays. It's got a lot more dangerous out there.
Yeah, got you. Listen, I wish you well. I hope recovery is speedy and fast. Take good care of yourself and hopefully speak to you soon. This is Darren, the
Thank you,
Forensic
Sonia.
Bodyguard. Lovely to have him with us. Lovely to have you with us, Poppet. Take good care of yourself.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. 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 And I've still got a picture of Charlie Kirk up there. Dangerous by design. And thanks, Darren, says Stephen Hall. Thank you, Darren, says Dilip. Wise words. Thank you, Darren, says Gina. And thank you, Darren, says Drumstick and Mel and all. And more and more and more and more and more. I saw him yesterday. Poor guy. I was like, I'm not sure this guy is going to be able to speak. Right. But he did really well. Thank you. And says M, thank you, got you. And don't you think it's interesting that Newsmax, right? Newsmax, which major US publication, they have purchased ads. I noticed this yesterday. They purchased ads on X, which is about how much Charlie Kirk loved Israel. And the front story is Charlie Kirk, Israel is our ally, our friend. Why would Newsmax, a major news corporation, not only see that as fit for a front page, but to take out advertising on X for it? I told you X is an absolute Zionist enterprise these days. It's just horrendous, absolutely horrendous. Right. Excuse me, peeps. Let's see what I can work through before my voice gives up on me completely. Sonia, when are you running for Prime Minister? Shyam, I'm not. I think politics is a duff game. If it was down to me, if I had some wishes for a day, I would dismantle the entire system. I think it is bent. It is built to compromise people. It is heavily agendaed. I would make everything much more localized, make people more accountable. That's what I would do. So I don't believe in prime ministers or presidents or royalty, as many of my viewers know. Right. I want to talk about the Stephen Lawrence parole hearing with David Norris. I don't know if anybody caught up with that last week. That was quite some interesting stuff. David Norris is one of the men who was found guilty of the racist murder of, what have I just done with that? Maybe if I add that now, there we go. Let's try that. There he is. There it is. There it goes. So David Norris was one of the men found guilty of, as I say, the racist murder of Stephen Lawrence. And Stephen was stabbed on the 22nd of April, 1993. He was just 18. He was waiting at a southeast London bus stop with his friend Dwayne Brooks when these thugs happened upon them and stabbed Stephen Lawrence to death. Well, David Norris, who is one of only two men, as I say, who has been convicted of the murder, had a 3-day hearing. That took place 13 years after Norris and Gary Dobson were found guilty of Stephen's murder and handed life sentences at the Old Bailey. Only Norris and Dobson have ever been brought to justice, with 4 other suspects never convicted. I don't know if anybody remembers this time when there was a public hearing to do with Stephen Lawrence, and all the thugs showed up. Let me bring in an image of Stephen Lawrence. And all the thugs showed up and were just bombarded. Actually, I have this image close by, so let me just share that with you. That was a delightful time. I believe all these men are responsible, although the one at the front was their friend. But certainly the men behind, I believe they are all responsible, and a further one who has since died. And honestly, the whole hearing was absolutely absurd. A friend of mine who was there and witnessed it said it was farcical. First of all, David Norris refused to even look at the camera. They heard evidence from an unknown prison to the Royal Courts of Justice. And there were people like Doreen Lawrence, Baroness Doreen Lawrence, who is obviously Stephen's mum. She was there. There were a number of people in attendance, including journalists. And Norris showed us his attitude. He, as I say, refused to face the camera. Yeah, only his back was visible on screen, but he could be seen wearing a black T-shirt, glasses, and with greying hair. And what was interesting is he has finally admitted some involvement in this. And he admitted that he was part of the attack on Stephen. He's refused to name the other killers. And for decades, Norris publicly denied involvement in the murder, giving no comment interviews to police, claiming he was innocent during his trial. However, the hearing heard confirmation that he had admitted involvement since being in prison, but he denies stabbing Stephen or using a knife. 3 of the original suspects, brothers Neil and Jamie Acorn and Luke Knight, have never been convicted and remain free. And a further suspect has since died. And the fact is, Norris says he knows, but he's just not saying. He's declined to comment when asked directly by the panel chair if the Acorn brothers were part of the group who killed Stephen. And he's also refused to say whether Gary Dobson was part of the group, but said, of course, when asked if he knows who else was part of the attack and could he give the names. My attitude is he should absolutely not get parole until he squeaks. He claims he's changed, but he hasn't. He's still a filthy, racist bastard. That's what he is. The hearing heard how Norris continued using the same racist language in prison that actually was used on Stephen before he was stabbed. Okay, in a prepared statement that Norris read out, he apologized to the Lawrence family and wider Black and ethnic community for the fear and horror his role in the attack had caused. He told the parole board that he believed his time in custody had seen him change from being a horrible, violent and racist young kid. You liar. A liar lies. We are so shocked. Stephen's mum, Baroness Doreen Lawrence, says Norris remains a danger to the public. Yes, he does, and must remain in prison. And the Justice Secretary is also opposing his release. Poor Doreen said she could not forgive Norris because he has not expressed any acceptance, any contrition, and certainly has no humanity. If he did, he would have told us what he did, why he did it, and taken responsibility for his murderous actions. She said, anyone who does not accept what they have done and shown remorse for it remains, in my view, a danger to the public. Absolutely. And when questioned about other people involved in it, he said, I'm not here to discuss other people. I am here to take responsibility for my part in what happened, my actions. Yeah, that's why you start off with your back to the camera, right? I mean, I got to be careful what I'm saying because I'm on YouTube, but what happened to Watkins in prison, I'd have no issue. Same happened to Norris. Not at all anyway. But nothing's going to happen to Norris because I'm sure he's protected in prison, because don't forget his dad. And I am not calling for violence against him. I think violence begets violence. I'm just saying that I wouldn't be sad if anything happened to him. And describing the night of Stephen's murder, Norris said he'd been on a date, saw a group of people that he knew. Norris said that he was ready for violence at the drop of a hat and that there was a gang mentality among the group. And I think it's absolutely outrageous that only 2 have ever been convicted of this. I think it's outrageous that he's on a parole hearing. This man is a danger to people in society, and he should remain banged up indefinitely, along with Gary Dobson. And what would be fantastic is the other people who are complicit in this heinous crime. And the irony is they're all racists. But Stephen was trained to be an architect. Stephen and Dwayne, intelligent young black males. These were a bunch of white thicko thugs who barely had one GCSE between them. And they considered themselves superior to the young black men who were no doubt going to contribute far more to our society than these heinous thugs ever have done. So I say, let him stay in jail and let him rot. Because I don't care about people like that. I have a fatigue. I have a compassion fatigue and right now, and it doesn't extend to people who've taken the lives of innocent people. No, it doesn't. So he can sod off, and when he gets there, he can sod off again, which is an expression I use often, but I usually use the F word. Right, let's move on. Yes, drumstick, absolutely. Right, let's have a look. I want to look at this. What is the new EU border system? Let's look at it briefly and how will it work. you may or may not be aware, but as of yesterday, there's a new EU border system, which is biometric checks at borders, which began yesterday. And that's the EU's new digital entry and exit system, so-called abbreviated to the EES system. It came into force at border security for European travellers. It's not a replacement for passport control. Travellers will still have to go through checks with border officials at ports, but essentially what it is faces will have to be photographed, fingerprints scanned before they're allowed into Europe's Schengen area. And this is the start of a phased introduction to the system. It is scheduled to be fully in place by the 10th of April 2026. It applies to the Schengen area, which you may or may not be familiar with. That's 25 of the 27 EU member states, but also includes Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland. And the Schengen area includes countries where British people travel to frequently for holidays, such as Spain, France, Portugal, Greece, and Italy. And it now means that you as a Brit will be subject to those biometric checks because we're no longer part of their deal, right? And so that's what it means. And depending on how you are traveling and where from, like, for example, if you're going from Dover, perhaps coach and foot passengers, they'll go through a new facility for the processing. And again, that started yesterday. But from November, this will apply to all traffic. Coach passengers going through the Eurotunnel will also have to go through the checks as well. And airports are implementing the system at different times. For example, Germany will phase in their service, starting with a small airport in Stuttgart and then build up to operations in Frankfurt, which is one of the busiest airports in Europe. And you might be wondering what will happen to the data that is collected. Well, they claim it will be kept for 3 years with some exceptions, after which it is erased. And it can be used by border, visa and immigration authorities in the countries using the systems. And more besides. And I noticed a couple of viewer emails, and one of them is from the lovely Miss Swiss. Good morning to you, Miss Swiss. I will look more into what you have to say, but it is deeply alarming. Because again, it feeds into the whole thing, right? We rail a lot against the whole issue of digital identity, but all of this is all part of the same package. Biometric, same package, all is. And I haven't had full time to look at what you sent to me, Swiss Miss, but I think it's to do with what's going on in Canada. The Bill C8, Canadian Cybersecurity Bill, that aims to strengthen the protection of critical infrastructure such as telecommunications, banking, and energy. And I actually think, although it's obviously it's not biometrics in the same way as traveling from one country to another, but it is all part of the same system. And this looks deeply troubling, and I will look into this properly by next week. So there you go. And people are obviously concerned because people don't want to be able to travel to where we've always been able to travel without any problems. And suddenly we have to give up all this biometric data. You're very welcome, Swiss Miss. You're very welcome indeed. Right. Moving on. I just wanted to outline that just to make people aware that came into force yesterday. Yes, of course, as ever, we should be concerned. Right, I want to turn to this new feature that I've created out of absolutely nowhere called STFU. I think you all know what that stands for. So this week's Shut the F Up goes to this plum, this absolute plum of plums. Let me find him. Let me find this individual. Where is he? Where are you? There he is. Robert Jenrick. Robert Jenrick is known as the Right Honourable Robert Jenrick. He's the Conservative MP for Newark. He's been an MP continually since June 2014. He currently undertakes the role of Shadow Secretary of State for Justice. And the reason that I've chosen this man is because I believe this man is not a Britain first person, even though he portrays himself as. Remember what I said last week? People who are screaming the most and the loudest about being patriotic are turning out to be the biggest traitors that we have. And there's a number of things I want to talk about Robert Jenrick and why he's earned the title of Shut the F Up this week. Is, first of all, there was a leaked recording of him, which found its way into the hands of a Guardian journalist. In it, Jenrick said, I went to Handsworth in Birmingham the other day to do a video on litter, and it was absolutely appalling. It's as close as I've come to a slum in this country. But the other thing I noticed there was it was one of the worst integrated places I've ever been to. In fact, in the hour and a half I was filming news there, I didn't see another white face. How does he know they are poorly integrated based on spending just over an hour and a half there? He doesn't. And at least 5 people from Birmingham, the surrounding area, have contacted me, say they are outraged by what he said. In fact, the area that he's talking about is a deeply integrated area, which includes white people, right? The fact is, Robert Jenrick made these sweeping generalizations because Robert Jenrick is a divisive piece of filth who has worked very hard to be part of the toxic mouthpieces looking to distract our attention, while the type of people he likes the most, globalists and Zionists, get on with the business of harming us. In fact, as I say, Robert Jenrick is deeply wrong about integration. I will quote one of the people who contacted me. They said, go along the main street. You will see Hindus, Muslims, Christians. A lot of them are of African and Caribbean extract and, of course, origin. And there are a ton of white people. What is he talking about? I'll tell you what he's talking about. He's talking about division. Another person wrote in and said, our community is an example of different communities working together well, respecting each other while not standing on each other's toes. But he wouldn't care about any of that because that's not Robert Jenrick's role. I want to take you back to COVID. Anybody remember, that C-19 farce? See, I've long had a problem with Robert Jenrick, not least his exploits during C-19. He traveled to visit his parents 40 miles away while he dared to tell the rest of us to stay at home to curb the spread of coronavirus. But he got in his car and he drove to his parents. He claimed he was dropping off food and medication to them, but it showed what a two-faced, one rule for him and one rule for the rest of us, piece of filth that Robert Jenrick is. But also, more importantly, he traveled because he knew there was nothing to worry about. But still, he was prepared to spread the message of stay at home, although not for him. This is a man who is desperate to be leader. He has to get rid of Kemi Badenoch. So he's desperate to be leader. He's vowed to his Israeli allies that should he become PM, he will move the British embassy to Jerusalem. That's one of the things that he's vowed to do. Jenrick is not Jewish, but his wife and children are. And I am telling you here and now, in my opinion, Robert Jenrick is a traitor. He's Israel first. Not only has he spent much of the last week being given media space by his Zionist mates and bleating about what an awful time British Jews are having, but he has previously made a big promise to honor Jews in a way that is clearly preferential. He once told a conservative Friends of Israel event, and he was there. I wonder if I've got an image of him, actually. Let me just see if I can find it. Jenrick. Oh, that was him in lockdown. Oh, remember, there we go. He once told a conservative Friends of Israel event, right? So he appeared, he was wearing a black hoodie emblazoned with the words Hamas are terrorists. And he told the conservative Friends of Israel event, I want this country to be the most welcoming country in the world for Israelis and for the Jewish community. But why though? Why the most welcoming country in the world? Why can't we just be welcoming? And he said that while he was immigration minister, he had pushed for Israelis traveling to Britain to be able to use e-gates. He said that this would mean at every airport and point of entry to our great country, there would be a Star of David as a symbol that we support Israel. Sod off, Jenrick. We are sick of this. We're so sick of this. I'm so over all of this. I'm so sick and tired of these awful, awful people with their Israel first. And so he was using his time when he was employed as a British minister, which he still is now, to advocate for Israel. That's what he was doing. a Star of David at every entry point, for goodness sake. And he is one of the first people to clamp down on anybody who isn't white, right? To come after them in any way whatsoever. But the other reason why I've chosen him as this week's Shut the F Up is we talked last week about how the band Kneecap, they'd had to dismiss the allegations of terrorism charge against one of the lead rappers, Mo Cara. And they'd had to do this because the Metropolitan Police and the CPS were in such a rush to charge Mo Cara with an offence that they didn't go do their due diligence. They didn't go through the proper process, which was involving the Attorney General. And so Paul Goldspring, the Chief Magistrate, had no alternative but to throw the whole thing out. Well, Robert Jenrick is absolutely furious because I'm sure that his Israeli and Zionist allies are going absolutely insane, right? Because obviously Kneecap has stood up very strong against the genocide that is taking place in Gaza. And so Jenrick, he started mouthing off like a crazy individual last week. He's badmouthed the judicial system, badmouthed the Attorney General, badmouthed the judges. And the Attorney General sent him a very strongly worded letter warning him not to prejudice a future appeal on the decision to drop the terrorism charge against rapper Liam O'Hannon. And so what happened was Mo Cara, Liam, aka Liam, the 27-year-old, he was charged with the alleged display of a flag in support of a proscribed terrorist group, Hezbollah, London gig. And as I say, it fell through because the police and the CPS were in such a rush to charge them. We are an infiltrated country. I've told you this, and we all know this. We're an infiltrated country, and there's clearly a problem when it comes to anything to do with Israel and Gaza. It overshadows what is even taking place in our own country because so many of our politicians are captured by the Israeli lobby, including Friends of Israel. This is the reality. And I'm sorry, but we also have very bent cops as well. We have bent people throughout our authority, and we have to be really careful. But Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, is not happy and says that Robert Jenrick needs to carefully consider any further public comments to avoid any risk of prejudicing any future proceedings. So they still want to be able to charge Mo Cara from Kneecap. But anyway, Robert Jenrick is all up in arms about it. Now, let me just be clear here, because this is really important. And that is Robert Jenrick is Shadow Justice Secretary. He is formerly a qualified solicitor. And he doesn't seem to understand how the law works because he is blinded by his love of Zionism and going after anybody who seems to create problems for that. At the Conservative conference last week, his speech included the emotive expression New Order. That was in part a Nazi term that Hitler used to talk of a vision of Germany. And Jenrick was full of we need to get rid of the old order. It's time to bring in the new order, all this stuff. He is a divisive piece of filth. That's why he's won this week's award of Shut the F Up. He creates division. He's been given donations by Friends of Israel as well as the Israeli lobbyists. He is captured by a foreign state and is therefore not able to adequately represent the people of our great nation for which he is paid to represent. Therefore, he absolutely rightly deserves this week's Shut the F Up. And yeah, that's my take on that. And it was really interesting to read the letter from the Attorney General. Attorney General is ticked off, man, ticked off. Because Robert Jenrick is one of those social media politicians like Rupert Lowe, Nigel Farage, loads of them now. And that is, they play more to their social media audience than what they're supposed to be doing as politicians. They are singly without any kind of tact or discretion these days. They just blurt it all out. They're disgusting people. Quick one. Epstein continues to haunt them all from his Tel Aviv beachfront apartment. Wait, did I just say that? Of course, Epstein died, killed himself. What lies? I can't even say this. It's the sort of stuff that they'll say on mainstream media. Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell after killing himself. You'll never hear me trot out that rubbish because I just don't believe it. Anyway, he's continuing to haunt them wherever he is, whether he's in his Tel Aviv beachfront apartment or whether he is 6 foot under or whatever, or in a cask somewhere. And it has been confirmed. We talked about this the other week about how Peter Mandelson was very keen for his great mate Jeffrey Epstein to meet Tony Blair, and that did happen. The emails are being leaked exponentially now, like they are coming out at rapid pace. And also it has absolutely been revealed that interview that Prince Andrew gave with Emily Maitlis, he lied to her. I mean, we kind of knew that, right? But he lied to her. Because what happened was the Mail on Sunday had printed a picture, that infamous picture of Jeffrey Epstein, no, not Jeffrey Epstein, of Prince Andrew with Virginia Giuffre and Ghislaine Maxwell in the background. And the day after that, so that was published on February the 27th, 2011. And the day after that, February 28th, 2011, Andrew wrote to Epstein saying, I'm just as concerned for you. Don't worry about me. It would seem we are in this together and we will have to rise above it. So it is absolutely no doubt whatsoever that his interview with Emily Maitlis was a lie, because he said that as soon as he knew, he backed off. He got out and away from Epstein, but that is not true. He was still maintaining a friendship with him, that they were still in this together. So yeah, Epstein is absolutely the pedo gift that keeps on giving. And I think it's so interesting because this latest revelation comes just after weeks we heard about how Andrew's wife, Sarah, Duchess of York, wrote Epstein a gushing message calling him her supreme friend. And that was despite telling journalists she would never have anything to do with him again. The bottom line is this: Andrew, Sarah Ferguson, and both their daughters are very, very greedy people. They live off the fat of our land. They've contributed very little to it except to bring us down, except to be everything that you don't want people in their position and with their platforms to be. But they are all those things. And telling Jeffrey Epstein we're in this together while telling Emily Maitlis that he'd already severed his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein shows us that Prince Andrew is always and will always be a liar, a Pinocchio liar. That's who he is. It's who he is. Reality. I mean, and Epstein, the Mossad agent. Indeed. And I always thought it odd that she went back to live with him. Now we know why. Yeah, right. That's right. Fun times forever. Because the thing is you don't even have to like someone to have a secret in common. But I think in part she went back to live with him because she's just an opportunistic piece of work. But yeah, they've got secrets, haven't they? They've got secrets. Yes, I do believe that a great deal of work has taken place, blackmailing politicians and diplomats who frequently have very heinous and nefarious behavior, and often involving children. So there you go. So yeah, Epstein, the gift that keeps on giving. And thank you, Jules. Jules has sent me a email, which I will also look into, and about withdrawing the Children's Wellbeing and Scores Bill. And Jules says, looks very much like school-age children will be given an ID, digital ID, without consultation or parental consent. What do you think? I get you. I absolutely get you. We would be stupid to believe when Keir Starmer said, this is about stopping migration. We'd be absolutely dumb, stupid to believe that that was what it was really about. It was never about that. And the whole thing will be rolled out to all of us. Stein, not Stone. Who said Stone? I didn't say Jeffrey Epstein. No, Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. They changed it. Americans pronounce it different to the British, but I never said Stone. If I said Stone, I apologize. Right. Okay. Shout out to Down the Rabbit Hole News. Lovely words. Thank you so much. And to all her viewers who have just subscribed here, thank you so much. She referred to me in relation to the Julia Wandort case, and Down the Rabbit Hole News, much like our Synchronized Souls, Only Cans has been covering that. So do check them out. And thank you so much for your responses to my investigations as ever. Always greatly, greatly appreciated. And people find this channel through a number of different ways. And one of them, and this is from Penn, saying, good morning. I just found your channel via Andrew Gold podcast. And Andrew Gold podcast, the Heretics podcast, done excellently. And I have not done any other podcast this year except my own, but I have agreed to do a return with Andrew in December, which will make it 3 Christmases in a row. I intend to. Synchronized Soul says, I can't share the link here, but live at 6 p.m. Why can't you share the link here? I'm covering the One Dot case every day. Yes, I mentioned that at the start of the show. Did you not hear me? Cheyenne wants to perform civil arrests on people for being pedos. Oh, I'd love to do that, right? And I see big changes at YouTube, right? They've reinstated lots of videos that were taken down during C19. But one of the things that I think people are going to start asking, and that is, will YouTube be financially compensating them for the money that was lost during that period of time? I don't know, is the short answer to that. I'm still waiting for Business of Cancer to go back up. That's what I'm still waiting for. Indeed, Blue Nomad. Indeed. Right. This is from Lynn in Great Yarmouth. And I think the people in the comments, I think you might relate to this. Dear Sonia, and she's done it in big, bold letters. Have you seen food prices recently? My fortnightly shop has increased by at least £25 in the last month or so. Cheese is off the charts. Standard cheddar is £6 for a wedge that would have cost £3.50 before. It seems that after COVID, the corporate businesses were given license to charge us what they damn well want, and without our government doing anything to protect us. I have to wonder, do you think the aim is to starve us into submission or even into war on the streets? That is from Lynn, Great Yarmouth. And Synchronized Soul said, food shopping is killing me financially. It's insane. They're coming for our protein, says M. Interesting stuff. Because if you go to a food bank, it's full of junk food. It's full of junk food. You don't get you don't get fresh food there. Dilip says co-op cheddar is, what's that? £5.85. Whoa, what? Just for its own brand? And Post Colt said, my dog's minced beef went from £3 to £5.90. That's insane. That's insane. Blue Nomad said, we need to go back to eating just 3 times a week. That won't be easy. Well, I definitely won't be joining you on that. But dude, write in. Let me know what your food bill is like before and after. Because Lynn from Great Yarmouth is not happy. And I have noticed these things, Lynn. It's too much. It's absolutely insane. Yes, it is indeed. And we're not having it. We're not having it. People, I need to just blow my nose. Excuse me a second. There you go. I managed to get through this recording. Excuse me. I managed to get through this recording all right, though, right? I want to say thank you as ever to our donators, to Faye J, to Ian J, to Catherine M, to Margaret R, to Alan A, and thank you, you beautiful people, for the super chats today. Thank you, Swiss Miss. Thank you, Gemma. Thank you, Simon. Simon says, I spent £5 for a coffee. Do not spend it on drugs or at Starbucks. I will resist the urge on both occasions. I like a coffee, me. Thank you so much for all your generosity, you wonderful people. I truly, truly appreciate it. And I'm actually going to end on a kind of think piece that was really inspired by a number of people who've written to me, and about how quickly AI has advanced on the world stage. And there are some aspects of it I absolutely do get. Used correctly, AI can make our world easier. It can make lots of things more accessible to many people who don't necessarily have the finances or the funds or the equipment, maybe to even kind of like bring in people to do additional work. So in situations like, I don't know, content creation, I can see its worth, although not necessarily when it comes to art. Because the problem is that when you use AI to create art, it becomes a thing that everyone can do. But not everyone has been created to make art. We all have different roles. And then there is the issue, of course, about how there's theft involved there. My work, your work is all being chewed up by the great AI and assimilated into one humongous whole. And people's copyright is being ignored. And we are also generating mediocrity. And one of the reasons I want to talk about this is, have you noticed how, for me, it feels very sudden, how things have suddenly become very unreal? I cannot believe my own eyes. And I find that troubling. And a lot of our viewers feel the same way. I believe that anything that is generated by AI, whether that's ChatGPT or anything like that, or AI, imagery, music, whatever, I believe it should carry a symbol telling us that it has been generated by AI. Because what it's entered us into is a world of absolute make-believe where nothing feels real. And what you end up with is a situation where heinous attacks can take place on people, and someone who has not left their front room says it's a work of fiction, because we are all so unsure what is real and what is fake now. And, you know, there's this, I think it's so weird how there's been this great march of AI and like hardly any pushback at all. You have people in Hollywood, for example, in the Musicians Union, and they're fighting back against it because obviously it will impact them, it'll impact their work, it'll impact their creativity, and it'll impact their money and their royalties. But I think some of the videos and some of the imagery, I'm actually appalled by it. And one example was I saw that Zelda, the daughter of lovely Robin Williams, who was said to have taken his own life, the comedian, she is so disturbed because she keeps receiving AI generated videos of her father. And she said, it's not what he'd want, not what he'd want at all. It's some horrible stuff. And the problem is, I do think it takes us into a world of make-believe. And I don't want to be in a world of make-believe. I want to live firmly in the here and now, that when I see something, I know it's what I'm seeing and it hasn't been, you know, AI generated. So absolutely, I think the first pushback needs to be that we now need to have symbols. That has to be by law. If an image appears on social, because honestly, some of the stuff on social media, videos, images, and I do believe that to a degree, these big tech bros don't care about you and I, right? They want to create a transhumanist society. Everything pretty much that we've talked about today plays into that, including surrogacy, but that's what they want to create, where humans are not really thinking or feeling. And one of the ways to almost distance us from how we feel about anything is when we become uncertain of whether it's real or fake. So I have a lot of problems with that. Absolutely. I believe that we should have symbols that says this is an AI generated image. That's what I think we should do. And Rachel says even CGI in a film turns me off. Randy says Earth is real, if anything. Pete, why is regulation impossible? Can you explain that to me in the chat? Because I'd be interested in hearing that. Why is it impossible? And my TV told me to get vaccinated, but I didn't, said Maria. So many AI bots on Facebook now. And as soon as I hear AI voice on a spiritual video, I turn it off. And that's the other thing, is YouTube is absolutely flooded with videos from brilliant people, whether that's Carl Jung or whomever. And it's not them. It's all AI generated. And I find that disturbing. I find that disturbing. Reba said people are so disconnected from themselves, they have no discernment. It's time to go inward and learn to truly see, hear, and feel again. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. That's where we need to be now. So yes, I think that legal does not equal moral. No, Ian, no, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. And so it shocks me that we've had so little pushback about this. And I don't like living in a world where, because remember what they used to say to us, right? And that is, you know, a picture never lies. Well, bloody ha. That's ridiculous. We now know that absolutely they are gaining crazy subs. Absolutely, they are, Zoe. They are. It's insane. Yeah, so that's where we're up to. And I agree with everybody who's written into me about their alarm and their concern about AI in whatever form that is, whether that's graphics, whether that's videos, whether that's music, whether that's imagery, whatever it is, they are concerned. And so am I. More inversions, says Ian. Yes, Shug, there's crazy stuff going on in the world. Crazy stuff. Entire swathes of land burned. Absolutely. Crazy stuff. Meditation videos keep being interrupted by ads now. I see. Please look at World ID sometime, Sonia. I will, Jack. We're going to end on a quote, because that's what I like to do around here. And can I just I must find my credits, because here they are, credits for Monday. These are my wonderful patrons. You can join us at Patreon. The link is in the description below. My patrons know first and foremost about what is going on to do with me and to do with Wake Up. And this is thank you to them all. This is them. And I just want to end on a quote. And that is, it's really simple. And that is, if you can be anything, be real. That's simple. I wish you a wonderful week. I will be back on Friday. I've got an idea for the investigation and may well be quite controversial, though, but that's never worried me before, has it, kids? I have to go, Hugh. I have to go. Ginger tea for Sonia, says Drumstick. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate you all. Maria loves this show. Cheers, Jacqueline. And thank you, Colin. I appreciate you all very, very much. You wonderful, lovely people. I will be back on Friday. Thank you, Dilip, and thank you, Captain Flint. Take good care of yourself. Love you loads, peeps. Take good care of yourself.